what is Meek Fitness?
So essentially, it started off as a personal training sort of company. So obviously, we aim to do one-to-one sessions, group sessions, boot camps, basically just kind of tailoring to people's fitness needs. And I guess it kind of expanded onto also clothing, as you can see, and we also have like a few little special, I guess, segments where we do boot camps with tailored groups.
What's your focuses for Meek Fitness? I know there's certain if you look at the Instagram, like there's certain things you focus on, like changing and being able to like focusing on challenging yourself.
Yeah. So obviously, like the main sort of, I guess, slogan that we kind of fire off is redefine your peak. And a lot of the time, I think with fitness, especially in the generation that we're in today, because obviously social media is such a big thing, so a lot of people tend to see fitness and gym just about how you look on the outside. But what we're trying to do is obviously to not change the perspective, but also highlight the fact that it's not just about how you look on the outside, but also just the ability for you to be able to cope with everyday needs. Because I can look, for example, like I tell a lot of people, if you look at all these bodybuilders, of course they look great on the outside, and like, but if you was to sit with them and through their whole sort of prep of when they're going to get ready for a comp, and that the sort of extreme limits that they push their body to sometimes isn't really healthy. And if you look on the inside of their body, give it 10, 15 years time, some of their bodies won't even be able to, like, the functions of their bodies will begin to break down. So it's not about trying to obviously look like, do you know what I mean, the next Hulk or whatever it is you want to look like, but also just being able to make sure that the inside of your body is healthy as well. So again, obviously just challenging your mind as well, because a lot of the time I feel like a lot of people sort of limit themselves before they even get into the gym. So sometimes it's the fact that they might see someone doing something mad and think, oh, I could never do that. Like I've got clients sometimes and I'm telling them, all right, cool, like this is our next exercise and we're going to progress onto this, and they're like, no, but you can't tell me now if you haven't tried it first, innit? So, do you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of the time, once they begin to sort of incorporate that mindset of being able to challenge themselves and push themselves just in the gym, they're able to actually transfer that to other areas of their life as well. So whereas maybe before they might have seen a challenge at work and thought, or a position at work and thought, I can't really go for it because, do you know what I mean, I'm not qualified. Well, maybe before you wouldn't have thought you were qualified enough to do certain exercises or what, but you've done it now, so maybe you might think, all right, cool, with this job or with this prospect in life, I might try and challenge myself and see how far I can go as well.
Like that. Yeah, no, that's how it should be, because it can teach you like discipline and other things that you wouldn't have mastered or practiced before you started hitting the gym and focusing on your fitness.
Yeah, definitely, because there's only so much like reading a book. I mean, reading a book, obviously you gain so much wisdom from like books and like all these sort of entrepreneurial people out there, listening to their talks and that, but being able to actually put it into practice in the gym, for me, I learn a lot more from being able to demonstrate and put things into practice. I'm more of a physical learner rather than just a recreational sitting down. And so I feel like if a lot of people are able to do that in the gym, then it also goes to show them, rather than just reading it, that you can actually do it.
Yeah, that's definite, man. And what's your definition of success?
I would like to say, obviously, wealthy pockets, but it's not always about that. For me, I guess it's just being able to wake up every morning and actually enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
I've always said it to, I guess, everyone that I come across in life, that, I mean, I could be working on a job that I'm earning 100 grand a year, but if I like, literally hate that job to the last T, there's going to be one day I wake up and I'm not even going to bother to give you maybe 10 or 15% to the job. But now that I'm doing something that I enjoy, whether I'm making money or maybe not making as much as I want to, every day I give 110% to every single client and every session that I'm in, because that's what I enjoy doing. And eventually your passion will pay for yourself. Yeah,
that's definite, man. And finally, before we get into like the next stage, what motivates you?
I guess it's just being able to be with that person on the journey, and at the end of it, I guess, see the results that come from obviously the hard work and the effort that we put into it. Because I guess even before I started personal training, a lot of the time when I used to go to the gym with my friends, it would always somehow fall onto me directing the workout or leading the workout, and they'll be like, all right, cool, so we get into the gym, 4 or 5 of us, and all right, cool, Meek's what we're doing. I'm like, we're just here to train chest, innit? But I just found myself falling into that role of, all right, cool, guys, this is what we're doing, do you know what I mean, directing the workouts and how many sets, reps, whatever it is doing. And over time, as I began to see sort of changes, obviously in myself, but also in my friends, I felt like a sense of happiness and excitement for them as well, because I'm like, right, like we've all achieved this together. So for me, being able to now bring that to a place where I can actually even get paid for being able to enjoy that with someone is so much more encouraging for me. So
No, I hear that, man.
that's what motivates me, man. Yeah.
That's nice, man. And with that, like you talk about directing the workout, and that sounds like that was part of the journey that led to the creation of Meek Fitness.
Yeah.
What else happened to help you kind of create this business idea from gymming? Because it's not easy to turn PT or gymming into a business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you've got a lot of PTs that aren't making it the strides in business that they should be, because they're not able to figure out how to work it in that area. So
I guess for me, it was a mixture of things. Obviously, having sort of like the right people around me to be like, because I think from before I started PT, maybe about 2 or 3 years before, I always had people telling me, oh, why don't you go into PT and this and that. And for me, again, obviously, I think back then I used to look at it and think, because the sort of market for PTing was oversaturated, where like you've got like everyone becoming a PT now, I just always just kind of limit myself and think, that's not for me, or I would enjoy doing it, but I don't know if I'd be successful at it. But I guess it was just as I began to sort of spend more time like praying and asking God about what my sort of purpose in life is, I began to get more direction. And obviously, like, He can even send people to you to even confirm the things that maybe he's the talents in which is entrusted to each person. So I found myself sort of just naturally falling into it, and like God placing me in certain positions or timings or in presence of certain people. And it literally, within the space of, I think it was about 3 or 4 months, just began to pick up, and the ideas, without any effort, everything just began to flow. Like, I was getting in touch with the right people in order to be able to set up the gym, get the right equipment, get the right necessary links. And here we are, 8, 9 months down the line.
with this, you talk about gymming, and it was in the process behind it and the journey behind it. Was this always a number one focus for you, or did you have other things that you wanted to do?
It wasn't always a number one focus for me. As I said, obviously, because before I was used to think, the PT market is too oversaturated. I guess when I was younger, my main focus was football. And obviously, I had quite a good sort of run. Was playing semi-professionally, had a contract to go out to America. But obviously, it was like a sort of scholarship program as well, because in America they're quite like adamant on making sure you get your education as well. So got the offer, but it's like a year before you go out there, you have to spend a bit of time training and doing all the like necessary checks, getting the paperwork ready. In that year, at the beginning of the year, I actually got injured, broke my ankle, and I was out for about 3 months. Did physio, and obviously they came back to speak to them. They was like, look, you got 6 months. Like, we can still sort of make a leeway for you as long as you can kind of get back into it and train and whatnot. And literally first match back, ankle went. Some guy clattered into my ankle, and I was just like God, why? So I guess back then that was my main focus, sort of get into football. And I guess obviously when that sort of kind of went down, obviously at the time I was down, but now obviously I begin to see purposes to why maybe certain things happen in life, because it changed my perspective and like reordered my footsteps into where maybe God wanted to take me. So I found myself here, and I was like, I think when I finished sort of playing football, I still play from time to time, but I was like, although I'm not playing full time, I still want to be active in some sort of sport. So I found myself falling into gym, and like, as much as I was training, because we were training about 3 or 4 times a week, you might play a match once a week, I found myself doing gym 5 times a week, and then it just phased out from football to gym.
No, I like that, because then like, as it says, like, all things work together for good. Like, it all work together. For this purpose. So
Exactly.
it's good, man. Good, man. But what's the biggest challenge you faced so far?
With clients or just the whole business as a whole?
I mean, clients, I don't want to go too personal, but in terms of the whole business in itself.
Yeah, I guess I've got 2 really. One mainly with clients. I see it as a challenge, but at the same time I see it as a work in progress, because sometimes I get people that come to me and they haven't got the right mentality.
Yeah.
So, like I said, obviously at the beginning, fitness is more than just about how we look on the outside. So I found myself sort of also mentally coaching them. So it's like I'm kind of being put into another role at the same time.
Yeah.
And like it's mad the way God works, but like now I begin to even enjoy seeing not just the progress that they make physically, but the progress that they make mentally as well in their person and their character. Because like sometimes they come to me and like we can spend maybe like 15 minutes of the session like trying to push them to even start the exercise, talk about actually doing it. But then obviously you get later on down the line and like they're the ones being like, like, I give them a 5 kg weight to do something with, no, give me a 10 in fact. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to see, man. So yeah, like that sort of thing. That's my biggest challenge with the clients, so to say. But again, obviously it's a work in progress that we kind of enjoy seeing in them. And then I guess on the business side of things, it's just trying to maintain focus on sort of what we set out to achieve. Because obviously along the way, like a lot of the things that kind of get thrown at you, you don't really tend to, maybe you might not have thought about it in the beginning, and it's easy to become distracted with people kind of coming to you and being like, oh, do you want to do this and do you want to do that? And it kind of takes, sometimes it's easy to kind of take your focus away, but as long as you've got sort of, I guess, the right people around you to remember what it is that you started off to achieve, then that challenge sometimes it gets a bit tricky, but we're here, man. We're still focused though.
That's good, man. That's good, man. You mentioned we a lot.
Yeah.
Who's the sort of team behind you?
So I got quite a good support system, I'd say. Obviously, like I got my brother. So obviously, especially when I do boot camp, it's like he's there, he's my hype man, he's getting the crowd going when I'm obviously demonstrating the exercises. Mide's out there, so shout out to Mide, he's always there supporting me. I've got obviously my family as well, to be fair. My mum, she's like from the beginning up, like in terms of obviously helping me get things set up and whatnot. She's been there, even put a bit of money into it as well. And like, because my actual home-based gym is actually at the back of my house, so like the space that I've obviously used to build the gym is actually essentially my house, innit? So well, for her house, innit? So thank God for her as well. Obviously, I got my partner as well, Hannah. She's literally been like my backbone, like helping me with literally every aspect of the business, like down to the clothing, like making sure like the products look right. If I'm not posting enough, if I'm not doing enough on social media, like she'll bad me up and tell me, yo, Meek's like, what's happening? And then obviously, of course, I've always got like all my friends and family that are always like supporting me, like my clothing line, making sure that like obviously they're always like supporting and putting a brand out there. Just everything down to support from my friends and family, like they're always there to kind of make sure that like, I keep focused and keep pushing.
No, that's good, man. You need that. I need that because it's for as much as we like to believe we can do it alone, we can't. But you got that strong support system. You always figure it out. And they keep you grounded.
Yeah, definitely,
that's the
definitely,
well.
yeah.
So, and then in that you've spoken about how like the social media aspects, how your partner's very good at like helping you keep that going. Like you've used social media quite a bit to grow. I mean, it's the social media era. If you don't use it, you don't know how to use it, you're sort of screwed. But how have you managed to make it work for you? Because social media, as you were mentioning PT earlier, like you managed to make yourself a PT and make a living and stuff. But you said it was quite saturated, so you managed to do well to kind of make yourself stand out. Yeah. How you managed to do the same with your social media so that you stand out?
So I guess it's okay. To be fair, before I had the social media for obviously the business, I was kind of an anti-social media person. I guess obviously it's got its pros and cons. In today's generation, I feel like sometimes it tends to take away from just the actual thing of being able to communicate with someone in real life. Like a lot of people just live in a social media world. So I was never too keen on it, but I thought at the sort of stage in the era that we're in today, social media is like the easiest and probably one of the freest ways to actually get your material out there. So obviously began to look into like how people actually begin to use social media to obviously further their business and grow their horizons. And I just found out that it's easy to just get on there, start following people. Obviously you get a lot of people that follow back just for support and whatnot. And again, obviously people, I guess, especially in the fitness industry, or people, when they're looking for someone of a fitness profession to want to follow, they want to see someone who's motivating, someone who even maybe just once in a while does something crazy, and like they want to see the personality or the character behind the person, because they want to know sometimes that, all right, cool, yeah, he's a fitness person, but like he still lives a normal life. Like it's not just gym 24/7, innit? Like, or once in a while, like he goes out and just like lets his hair down, or like, do you know what I mean, goes out on the weekend, or maybe has a cheap meal here and there, innit? So I try and let people know that, as much as I push them to sort of like achieve their goals, but be realistic as well, innit? Because a lot of the time you'll get people telling you, like, for example, like a 6-week plan, and you lose your abs in like 6 weeks. But like realistically, it's not. You might lose your abs in 6 weeks, but you want to do something that's maintainable. 6 months down the line, they might be that same weight back on in it. So I'm trying to find a balance for people who can actually find this sort of lifestyle, not just the diet, not just something temporary, but a whole lifestyle where I can actually live like this, not just do it for 6 or 7 weeks.
What are the next steps for you?
I guess without giving away too much, obviously we've got the first anniversary of the company coming up in December, so we're planning a big event for that, hopefully. I guess just to kind of thank everyone for the support, share appreciation to my clients, and kind of just to give more exposure to the business.
So talk about merch. Like we talked about how you're able to merch before, but for those like that are watching, like just discuss it briefly, like how the story of merch came about. Because a lot of people get scared of we want to grow this, but we don't know how to do this, or they want to do it organically, but don't know how. Like, how did you come up with the idea and then the slow push?
Yeah, obviously, so the idea was just that on the day of the opening of the business, I wanted to have the logo sort of out there so people recognize the logo and begin to identify with it. So I just made literally like 3 jumpers for me and my mum and my brother that we was going to wear on the day, just so people can see the logo out. Literally on the day of the opening of the business, everyone was coming up to me, he's like, oh, can I get a jumper? Obviously had it on Snapchat, people was like, oh, can I get a jumper? And I was like, I don't really have jumpers, but I'll get them made for you if you want it. So I guess that's how the clothing line started off. So it was never really one of my plans, but again, obviously it just sort of fell into place. From that, I just began to see sales pick up, and again carried on meeting the demand of people that wanted it. So the logo was a little bit different from what we have here at the moment. At the beginning, that was more of, I guess, I sort of wanted a loud one that people can see and recognize at first, and then obviously became something a bit more subtle and smaller, just to keep it a bit more clean. And then here we are, started off with jumpers, moved on to like t-shirts, vest, hats, just easy stuff that is like sort of would be easy to kind of get out there. Because like, for example, like headwear, the first thing you sometimes notice about someone is maybe like a hat, if they're wearing a hat. And if, you know what I mean, a clean logo or something simple, someone might even just be like, oh, what's that Meek Fitness thing? Or like, let me get one of those in it. So
I do like the hat. I want that. I do like that.
I've got a couple in the car if you want.
Is there a website that people can hit up for this?
No, not a website at the moment. It's still on Instagram. Website's in progress as well. Okay. So but at the moment it's just literally hit me up on Instagram, and doing deliveries across the UK.
I appreciate that. You talk about challenging yourself, and you talked about the change quite a bit. Why are those two things, as well as the slogan, the most important to you?
I guess because with fitness in general, the reason people start fitness or any sort of training regime is to be able to see change. And again, obviously, if you're doing the same thing day in, day out, whether it be fitness, whether it be your job, whether it be any aspect of life, but if you're doing the same thing day in, day out, you can never really expect a different result. But in order to get a different result, especially in the fitness industry, you need to challenge your limits and challenge your person. So every day I say to myself, all right, cool, how am I going to challenge myself to be better than what I was yesterday? Or how am I going to challenge myself to push myself harder or push more weights than I was pushing yesterday? So that's exactly sort of the mentality I try to push onto my clients. Like, every day you're training, don't just go to the gym for the sake of like it being a checklist activity. You turned up, you went to the gym 5 days a week, but I can say sometimes I might only go to the gym 3 times a week, but I can say every single one of those 3 times that I went, I pushed myself to the complete limit. And like, even now, one of my friends that I go gym with, he's like my training partner. We kind of hold each other hold each other accountable to each other. And every time we go to the gym, I used to kind of set myself. Obviously, we used to have training regimes where you might train like 4 sets of 8, 3 sets of 12, or whatever it may be. One of these regimes that we set ourselves. Again, I felt it was a thing of, because I'm going to the gym every time, I might be increasing the weight a little bit, but I'm literally stuck in this whole thing of 4 sets of 8 or 3 sets of 12. So now, again, obviously to try and also push that change, we're challenging ourselves. So every single set we do is till failure.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Every single set, from the first exercise to the last exercise, it is till failure.
I like that.
So that way...
Well, you're gonna grow. You're gonna grow very quickly.
Thank God, I hope so. So it's that, in that sense, it's not just every session I'm going, but every single set, every rep I'm doing, I'm challenging myself to be better than what I was, maybe even the set before.
I'm gonna take that on, you know.
Yeah.
Like, even
Give
if
it a try.
Even if it's just for like that final set, like just to do it, because I'm not gonna. If you set like the 8 or the 10 or whatever, you set that as a limit. So that's usually what your safety net.
Exactly.
When you finish this, when you've like, okay, I'll get to this. And I can rest.
100%. It's so true because what was he? We was doing legs yesterday. As I told you, obviously legs are in a bit of a bad place at the moment. And we were squatting. We went up to 140. And generally before, I've gone higher. I've gone to like 170, 180. But like 140, maybe I might before I would have set myself and said, okay, let me get to like 8 to 10 reps and be comfortable. But what it is if I already say to myself before I start, let me do 8 reps, by the time I get to the 5th or 6th rep, my mind is already starting to shut down because I know I'm nearly there.
Yeah.
But when I train now with this mentality of like empty out on every single set, I'm doing like 15, 16 reps and I realize I'm not even tired yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I finish my set and my partner asks me how many reps did I do and I give him an answer, he said, get back on there. Because if I counted, then I didn't do it to failure.
When it changes your mindset.
Completely, yeah.
Oh man, that's some deep stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, give it a go if you're listening as well, people.
No, definitely, man. So you've had some good success, and you've really like managed to market yourself and do well and just be successful in your field so far. What advice would you give people who are looking to anything, like one thing, I want to start a business, or I want to do something that I actually enjoy? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Again, obviously, if it's starting a business, I will be the first thing I'll say to anyone is just to make sure that it's something that you enjoy, because like there's going to be in any business, in any sort of startup, there's going to be days, months, weeks, periods of time where maybe business isn't going how you expected. Like you might not be making as much as you expected. You might not even be making anything at all. But if it is your passion, regardless of how much you are making or how much you're not making, you're still going to have that push and drive to say to yourself, all right, cool, I'm still going to get up every morning and give 110% to what it is I'm doing. So start off with just finding out who you are, what your passion is, and what it is that's really going to get you up out of bed every morning. Once you found that, I guess it's more about just being able to learn about the market or the industry that in which you're trying to get into. So read up about obviously people that have been successful in that market, but at the same time, I think it's also a good idea to read up about people who've also failed in that market.
Yeah.
What I think it was something I was watching. One of my good friends, he's like a motivational speaker now, and he said the fear of failure is sometimes more motivating than the fear of not becoming who you want to be. Because if you look at something that obviously failed in that market and you think, right, I don't want to be in that position, the fear in you drives you much more than just looking at your successor and be like, yeah, I want to get there.
Yeah, that's fair actually. Plus, it keeps you keeps you on your toes.
100%.
So
Yeah.
You look at this dream scenario and you're like, okay, I can make it there. But if you haven't looked at what failed in the first place, then eventually you may end up making those mistakes. If you don't, that's the saying, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah, man. So obviously, learn from also every single mistake in the industry and people who have made those mistakes. Again, so you don't have to fall into them and experience that as well. Do as much research as you can into the industry. There's never enough sort of knowledge that you can't learn or can learn from anyone and any resource. Obviously, make sure, depending on the market or depending on what industry or business that you're trying to set up, make sure you've got a bit of capital behind you.
Yeah, of course.
And then obviously just begin to sort of be able to be good with money management.
That's the key.
Yeah, very key. Because like, if not, you'll run yourself into like, don't spend everything you got. Know how much you're able to spend this week, and like, don't live beyond your means. And a lot of the time, people try to maybe give an image to people of their business doing well, but they're living out of their means. And I mean, of course, you want to make sure that your business is doing well, but if it means that you're exposing to everyone as if you're living this lavish lifestyle and your business is booming, but really and truly you're suffering inside, it's not really making sense to me.
And that's the complete opposite of what they teach you.
Exactly.
So like, it's good to hear that, because like companies be like, okay, take on a loan, take on this, take on that. But then when it falls apart, now you're liable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's ways around it. Again, obviously, like I'm not saying like a loan is like a no-go area, but then just about being smart of it. Like if you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he started off his first investment buying a condo on 100% loan, innit? So it's not the fact that you can't get a loan, but be smart of it. Can you really afford to pay back that loan?
Yeah. That's a fair point, actually. Now, to end this, I want to ask like your perfect scenario. I want to ask like a two-part question. So, first, at the end of 2018, where would you like to be?
It's a tough question. For me, it's like I guess at the end of the day, God orders our footsteps in it. So I have to see where He wants to take me. But ideally, if it was up to me, God willing, I'd like to have expanded. Obviously got a big unit, bigger space, and hopefully have sort of weekly camps that I'm doing with obviously specific groups of people. So if it be like elderly or younger children or even disabled clients or something like that. But those are like I always want to work with like a niche group of people rather than. I enjoy working with everyone, but again, obviously, with those people that find it maybe a bit hard or struggle to get into fitness, I also want to try and touch and reach out to those markets.
I like that. And if I could give you the perfect ending, the perfect scenario, like if I could just lay it out for you.
In terms of what the
business or whatever, what would it be?
I guess to be able to leave this life, world, whatever you call it, knowing that I've given 110% to my business, to my family, set up something for my kids to grow up on and hopefully inherit, and live the life full of purpose and fulfilled my purpose.